Okay.
All right. Well, hello, and welcome to another segment of The Truth About Your Relationship. I am Dr. LaWanda N. Evans, and I have a special guest today, which is Dr. Leslie Griffin. And today, our segment is all about when your mouth ruins your relationship. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. I have a couple of questions I'm going to ask Dr. Griffin. She's going to share some information with us and tell us a little bit about herself and some of the things that she has going on as well. So, Dr. Griffin, tell us a little bit about you and what you have going on.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your persistence. So I am Dr. Leslie Griffin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Marriage Champs, which is a company dedicated to helping couples that fall in love grow in love. And so I am all about relationships and teaching strategies to help people cultivate a healthy, loving, passionate, long-lasting relationship. And so that's what I'm all about. I'm proud to be here on this episode with you, and I'll try to do my best to answer the questions that you ask.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for staying the course with me as we try to get everything done. You know, technology is just not neither one of our things. But anyway, we were able to record for everyone. I wish I was able to do a Facebook Live tonight, but that's okay. I'll be back next week with a Facebook Live. But tonight I recorded, and so you'll have the information that we wanted to give you. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. You know, one of the things that I posted today is from Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turns away wrath, and a grievous spirit. Hold up, I'm messing up something right here. Can you see me?
I can see just fine.
Okay, look like it went out. So as I was stating, I'm gonna pull up my questions as well while I talk to everybody. I don't know why we've been having computer issues all day, so I guess I don't know what the problem is, but we're gonna go ahead and
want us to talk about this, but we're gonna talk about it anyway.
Exactly, because I'm like, what is wrong with my computer here? It's weird, my video. I don't know what the problem is, but I'm gonna pull up my questions. But as I stated earlier, before we got started, my initial post when I first started this was sticks and stones may break my bones, but words hurt too, which is all about how your words hurt your relationship, all about how your mouth can actually damage your relationship. And so earlier today, I was trying to let everybody know that we're going to do this. And so I posted Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turns away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. And so my question was, why is it so hard for people to talk kindly to their mates, whether they're in conflict? And that's mostly the time when people really throw daggers at each other. They really talk bad to each other when there's a lot of conflict. So Dr. Leslie, tell us, what are your thoughts on the reason why it is so hard for couples to talk kindly to each other, talk nice to each other, to, not be so judgmental and critical of each other when they're having a conversation?
I think one of the reasons why people find it difficult to say kind words is that they have been hurt in the midst of the conversation. So when you feel attacked or when you feel like someone is mistreating you, it's difficult to maintain sort of a positive, compassionate attitude and speak kind words to people when you feel like that you're being mistreated in the moment. And so what happens is people get caught up in their emotions, and they allow their emotions to start dictating what they say and what they do. And so I think part of it is, that saying that hurt people, and that's exactly what it is. So if you're hurting me with your words, then it's easier for me to hurt you back with my words as opposed to being kind and being loving, which then sort of changes the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's probably the primary reason.
Okay. And so tell us, why is it so important for couples to learn how to communicate with each other, especially when there's conflict, especially when they're hurting? Because one of the things that I found is that even when couples are hurting, when one or both parties are going through something, they tend to lash out at each other. They tend to say things that, are very hurtful. And I always say they hit below the belt. Why is it so important for them to learn how to communicate and how to talk to each other in the midst of conflict and in the midst of being hurt?
Because the thing about words is that you can't take them back. So once you say it out of your mouth, it's in the atmosphere. And, what happens is you say things when you are angry or hurt that you would not necessarily say when you are calm and in a good place where you can think clearly. Right. And so when you say a word out of your mouth, it doesn't, even if you apologize for it, you've already spoke it. So now it's in the back of your mate's mind what you said. And a lot of times you talk about hitting below the belt. And what happens is people share things during vulnerable times with their mate, how they're feeling, their fears, what happened to them in their past. And what happens is when people get upset, they bring those things up to try to hurt their mate. And what you do is, if you build a bit of trust every single time you do that, so now your mate is no longer going to open up to you, because when I share things, vulnerable things with you, you use it against you when you're upset.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the challenge, part of the reason why people need to learn how to maintain control of their emotions when they are upset, and how to communicate effectively and get exactly what it is that you're trying to communicate. You need to try to get that across, and you have to use your words to do that.
Okay. And what about, you said they learn how to manage their emotions. What about those who need to learn how to manage their mouths?
Well, I think that that's the thing. I think that your emotions are connected to all of those things. So when you are when you are angry, it's almost like your mind and your mouth are sort of connected. And what you have to do is, you sometimes, for me, it took a lot of practice to be able to keep my lips from parting when I am upset. My mother taught me when I was younger, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. And that is a truism. It's not in the Bible. It's not a proverb. But the thing about it is that is very true. If you don't have anything nice to say, keep your mouth closed.
Yeah.
Because silence is much better than saying a harsh word. That words are not words, they're airplanes. And so when you speak a word, you're taking someone somewhere. Is whatever destination you're trying to get them to, you have to use your words to get them there. So you have to be cautious that when you're upset, that you don't say things out of your mouth, to try to hurt the other person, because you're not going to get them where you're trying to take them. If you want them to be empathetic to you, you want them to listen to you, if you want to be heard, then you have to speak words that are going to entice someone to want to listen, or to want to hear you, or to unlock. Nobody's listening at that point.
And what would you say to that person who feels that silence is a sign of weakness? Because you have people who, they just got to say something. Oh, I'm not gonna let you get away with this, or you're not gonna say this to me and get away with it and think I'm not gonna say anything. And they have a difficult time being silent. So what would you say to that person who really struggles in that area?
I would like to say to that person, that is actually, it's actually the opposite. You just read a proverb earlier, but there's also a proverb that talks about a fool speaking much, and a wise man keeping you have to be wise and keep your mouth closed, and it takes self-control to be quiet when you really want to speak. And so that's not a sign of weakness. That is a sign of great strength and of self-control, when you want to say something, but it's not going to be helpful, so you do not say it. That's where the power is, where you have control. A fool can just speak anything out of their mouth at any time. There's no power in that. The power is in thinking something and controlling that, not speaking it out of your mouth because it's going to do damage as opposed to help the situation. That's where the power is.
Wow. So there's power in silence.
Absolutely. It's a sign of self-control.
Okay. Good. And so my next question is, what is the impact of speaking harshly and negatively to each other in a marital relationship, or in a dating relationship, or even for those who are currently engaged?
Well, as I said before, what happens is when you speak harsh words, you're no longer, the environment is no longer safe for me to be vulnerable and to share things with you. And so in a relationship, there needs to be a certain level of emotional intimacy, and the environment has to be safe enough for me to share my emotions, particularly for men. So if you have created a hostile environment with your words, then you greatly reduce the probability that your mate's going to want to be emotionally intimate and vulnerable and things that are on their heart. Because when they share them, you use those things against them later on in an argument when you're upset, or you are not encouraging, you do not support, the environment is not safe enough for me to share. You have to cultivate an environment that allows people to feel safe enough to share. And if you use harsh words, then I no longer feel safe. I feel attacked. I feel like you are going to mistreat me. And then I have to defend myself. So if I'm on the defense all of the time, point either. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm picking out words to be able to hold on to and defend when it's my turn to speak. So it's all about environment and creating an environment that is safe enough for people to share and listen and understand, even if we don't agree.
Okay. I'm taking notes as well, because this is helping me. Because sometimes it's hard to be quiet.
It is. It's very hard to be quiet. It's very hard. But you have to determine, okay, if I say something, if I say this right now, is it going to be helpful or is it going to be hurtful? If it's going to be hurtful, then you don't say it. If it's going to be helpful, then you speak it, but you speak it in truth and in love. So there's an art to that. Even when you have to say difficult things to people, you can say them, but it's the way that you say it and the spirit in which you say it.
Yeah. Okay. This is good. Good. So my next question is, do you believe that the way we communicate with each other in our relationships, do you believe that that impacts the success or the failure of the relationship, and why?
That's a very good question. Does it impact the success or failure? I don't necessarily think that there is one thing that impacts the success or failure of a relationship. I think it's a combination of things, but I definitely think that if you don't get this whole idea of speech and communication, verbal communication, if you don't get that right, it will definitely negatively impact the relationship, and it will take a long time for you to get to a place in a space where you feel like things are good. So I do think it is extremely important to learn how to effectively communicate, to have self-control, to make sure that you're speaking kind words, that you're building up, not tearing down. If you tear down, it's difficult to kind of build back up. A lot of work. Can you do it? Yes. But if you start that tearing down and speaking harsh words and saying mean things to each other, you do so much damage to the relationship, and there is so much to repair that it takes a while.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say to that person that's in a relationship and they're like, well, that's just how I am. That's who I am. That's how I was raised. That's just me. He or she is just gonna have to accept me for who I am, and I'm just gonna say what I want to say, and that's just what it is.
If you have that kind of attitude, your relationship's probably not going to make it. Just because you are a certain kind of way, or you've been doing something a certain kind of way for a long time, doesn't make it right. Mm-hmm. And if it is harming your relationship, if it is detrimental to your relationship, if it is hurting the person that you love, then you need to strongly consider making changes. So you can have sort of that attitude if you want to, but it's not going to take you very far in a relationship at all. So if you want to just stay the same and continue to use harsh words and hurt your mate, then you probably don't value that relationship. If you value the relationship and you love the person that you're in relationship with, you will do what is necessary to be better and to make the relationship better.
Good. Okay, so my last question is maybe a little bit long, so I have to shorten it, but being critical, judgmental, prideful, and mean shows up in a lot of relationships. And many times people don't know, or they're not aware that they're actually doing this. At what point should a person take a step back and evaluate their own life, evaluate how they respond to their mate, and then make the decision and say, you know what, I need to change. I need to do better.
Yeah, so I think that in terms of self-reflection, I think you need to do that often. I think that couples should check in with one another to see how well they're doing. I don't think you should wait till you start having challenges to be checking in to see how things are going. You can ask your mate right now today, if you guys are in a good place, awesome. You want to stay in a good place. So you want to be checking in and saying, hey, listen, how am I doing here? A boyfriend, a husband, a fiance, how's my communication? Do you feel like I listen to you very well? Do I respond appropriately to your needs? Do I, tell me, where I am? What grade would you give to grade me on, A through F? Where would I score on communication? You kind of like a C. When they tell you what it is and you ask for feedback and you work to change those things. If you want your relationship, you have to be asking where you are. It's not about where you think you are. It's about what your mate, where your mate perceives you are. Because it's not enough. If you think that you're doing something well and you're really not, it's not going to help your relationship. Right. So you have to be honest. You have to be open with one another to share what it is that you think, or where the person is and how you would like them to be better or different. And then the person on the receiving end, be open to that. That's called constructive criticism. You want to be better. So tell me what it is or where you think I need to get better, and I'll work on that. But you do have to have a willing spirit. If you have somebody who doesn't have a willing spirit and just says, hey, I'm going to stay the same, you just accept me, love me for who I am or not, then that's not a person who's really, willing or wanting to be in relationship. Relationship requires give and take. It requires changing, flexibility. It requires growing together, learning, understanding every single day about your mate. So you have to be checking in constantly. I would say you do that once a week. Just kind of check in and see where you are. We all need to improve somewhere. If your mate tells you, oh no, you're perfect, that's not true. That's not true. That's right. We're all growing and learning every single day. So tell me one thing that you think I need to improve. What can I do better? In my speech, how I communicate with you, how I love you, how I show you that. So I think you need to check in to answer your question. I think you need to do that weekly. If you don't do that weekly, monthly, you should be checking in constantly.
Okay. So let me ask you this last two questions. The first one is, what would you say to that married person? Because how long have you been married?
I've been married for 15, almost 16 years.
Oh my God, I love that. So what would you say to that married person who has just torn their husband or wife down with their mouth, and they may have been married 15, going on 16 years, and they're at a breaking point? what would you say to them to really give them some tools to help them so that they can basically rebuild their relationship, rebuild their marriage, and also rebuild their mate?
That's a great question. I do have some personal experience with that. Early on, I did a very good job of tearing my spouse down. I wasn't even aware of it. I was doing and saying things that, were very detrimental to my relationship with my mouth. And it caused us to have some, in some rough places. And it took a lot of self-reflection and humility for me to say, wait, to get better. And how can I demonstrate to my mate that I want to be better, that I'm sorry for the things that I have said that have contributed to where we are, and that I want to put together a plan to make it better. So if you have done some tearing down and you've been negative with your words, and you have caused your relationship to be in a place where things are not so good, I do want to encourage you that they can get better, that now is as good a day as any to right your wrong. And as long as you are still breathing, you have an opportunity to make it right. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to apologize that have torn them down as opposed to building them up. And then what you want to do is you want to put a plan in place so that you can start to rebuild them up. And that's going to take a lot of work, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of grace and mercy and humility. And so what you're going to have to do is humbly go to your mate and say, hey, listen, I apologize. I want to get processed. And if you go and you express that and you genuinely mean it, then your mate will be receptive to that. And they're more likely and more willing to allow you an opportunity to make it right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. That's good. And so for the single people, for those of us who are not married yet, what would you say to us as we prepare to transition into that season of being engaged and also being married? What would you say to us as it relates to how we communicate and how we talk to our mates?
I think that it is extremely important, whether you are male or female, your words have power, and you have the ability to tear down and to build up, to give life. And you need to be conscious of every word that you speak out of your mouth, especially to someone that you like and then that you eventually grow to love. So what you have to constantly be thinking about is this, when I say this out of my mouth, even if it's true, because some people say, well, it's true. I said it. Aren't you supposed to tell people the truth? Yes, you are supposed to tell people the truth. But wise speech, you want to be wise with your speech. And wise speech is true speech spoken at the proper time in love. So it's not always the proper time to say what it is that you're thinking.
Yeah.
And so you have to be mindful of timing. You have to be mindful of the motive behind what's so important. I'm not saying don't speak truth to people, because you do need to tell them the truth, but you need to do that from the right place and at the right time. So as you're learning and you're growing and you're learning, you're dating people, look for opportunities to build them up. Look for opportunities to encourage, to tell them positive things about themselves. If they are not doing something that is probably in their best interest or healthy manner, watch your tone. Be mindful of your tone. Be mindful of the timing of situations. And then, you have to learn how to ask questions, and you start to learn timing of people. Is this if their face is frowned up, if they are, tired, that's probably not the best time to have a conversation. If they look frustrated, you have to look at those cues. You recognize what things set them off, what don't. You have to pay attention to those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Well, thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. You gave us so much information, so many nuggets, and I really do appreciate you, and I really appreciate your time. Do you have any final words that you want to share with us before we end?
Absolutely. Just remember that words are like airplanes. So be cautious with your words. Be careful with your words because they have the power to build up or to tear down.
Yeah.
And if you have been harsh with your words, do not fret. You will have an opportunity to make it right. And so what you want to do is you want to go back to that person and apologize, and you want to work to make it right. So if you were like me and you were harsh with your words, I repeat, if you were like me and you were harsh with your words, in the past or even yesterday or earlier today, you do have an opportunity to make it right. So start today trying to make it right and build up your mate as opposed to tearing your mate down.
Yeah.
That will lead you to a healthier, happier relationship.
Good. Oh my God. I love it. One more thing, because I know you have to go. You want to tell us a little bit about Marriage Champs, and if there's information that people can maybe sign up for to get, so they can learn more about Marriage Champs, because I think what you're doing with Marriage Champs is actually awesome, and I think everybody needs to know about it.
Thank you so much. Well, Marriage Champs, our website is www.marriagechamps.com. It's kind of our just a website that kind of tells you who we are, what we do, how we do it. And we really are about helping people that fall in love, grow in love. Our tagline is where sports, love, and faith meet. So we are all about having a good time, loving each other, fellowshipping, building a community of people that can come together and have a good time and really cultivate a rock solid relationship. So you don't have to be married. It is called Marriage Champs, but you don't have to be married. You can just be dating or, engaged in a relationship, and you want to just come out, have a good time, learn some solid skills to help you cultivate a loving, passionate relationship that's going to last a lifetime. That's what we're here for. We do have an application for couples, a web app that we're really excited about that we've just launched. So we have a lot of great things going on, and we host events for couples. So if you want to find out more, you certainly can go to marriagechamps.com to find out more information. You can also reach me there, or you can go to our Facebook page or Instagram, marriage_champs. So that's how you can find me. Send me an email. I would love to talk to anybody who's interested in talking. Other than that, that's it.
Well, great. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, this is Dr. LaWanda N. Evans. I am a licensed professional counselor, relationship therapist, and a healthy relationship expert. I want to also let you all know that in February, I'm hosting the 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. It's going to be a 2-day retreat starting that Friday evening at 6 p.m., February 8th, and it's going to go through Saturday till 4 o'clock. So if you're interested, I would love to have you join me for the 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work here in the DFW area, the Dallas area. And then in March, I'm hosting the 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work in the Houston area. I love the city of Houston. And so Houston, I am coming home. I call Houston my other home because I used to live in Houston. So I'm hosting the 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work the second weekend in Houston, and then the second weekend in February in Dallas, and the second weekend of March in Houston. And right now, the registration is at a huge discounted rate. This is my Christmas gift to all of my couples. If you're single, you can attend as well. So you can go to my website, which is www.drlne.com to get more information. Click on seminars, and that information will be there. So hopefully, I will see you either in February or either see you in March at one of my 7 Principles workshops. Thank you again, Dr. Leslie. I appreciate
you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. I am so excited about this. So you guys have a great evening, and it has been wonderful. And I will chat with you all later for the next segment of The Truth About Your Relationship on next Sunday. Thank you and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.